Self-expression is self-care.
We're passionate about passion.
I want to remove as many barriers as possible so everybody can see how cool it is to be creative and make that a part of your life.
Don't dismiss creativity as a tool for recovery because it's a tool that I use every day.
I'm Doreen Lorenzo.
I'm Rebecca McEnroy.
And I'm Michael Baker.
Welcome to Creativity is the Job of the Future, where we talk to people who are harnessing the power of creativity to overcome major challenges.
People who don't think they're creative sometimes get the most out of these groups.
It went from this helped me, and I bet you it would be helpful to some other people, to I think we're really starting a movement here.
When Doreen introduced Michael and me to the work Skye Hilton and Troy Whittington were doing through New Obsession, offering support to those recovering from substance use disorder through creativity, I was blown away. Their work is the perfect example of the power of using creativity as a map to navigate uncharted territories in life. And it reminded me of a poem by Miroslav Holub called Brief Reflections on Maps, where he writes about a young lieutenant from a small Hungarian unit in the Alps who sent out a scouting party on a mission, and then immediately it began to snow and he thought they were lost for good. But a few days later, they returned and said they too thought they were done for with the icy conditions until they discovered a map and found their way back. The lieutenant asked to see this incredible map and realized it wasn't even a map of the Alps, but of the Pyrenees. We have a link to the poem in our show notes and on our website, but I love that poem because it reminds me that sometimes, even if we don't know how to read a map, or if the map isn't any good, having it gives us confidence and the courage to navigate the unknown. And to me, that is creativity. Creativity is the confidence to know we have what we need inside of us as human beings to overcome, to persist, and to flourish even in uncertainty. We hope you love this episode and Skye and Troy as much as we do.
My name is Skye Hilton. I am the owner of New Obsession. We provide creative resources for artists and musicians that are in recovery from substance use disorder or that struggle with their mental health.
My name's Troy Whittington. I'm Skye's assistant, and I am also a creative recovery facilitator for New Obsession.
Okay, now both of you have a very interesting story on how you got here. It wasn't like you woke up one morning and said, I want to do this. So could you both share your story on how you got here?
Yeah, I grew up someone who's super blessed to have known that I am really passionate about art and music and just creativity in general. I would say that my passion is being passionate about things. I just love feeling connected to what I'm doing and getting into the flow. I pursued a career in the arts. I ended up going to Pratt Institute. I got a bachelor's in fine arts, studied illustration. And then life took a really challenging turn for me shortly after I graduated from college. And that is when my experience with substance use disorder came into play. So I am a person in recovery myself. I am a person who has experienced relapse, and something that I realized through my experience with active addiction and also the recovery that happens through that and on the other side of that. But I completely lost that sense of passion in myself. When I was still actively using, I would try to create things. I would try to get a creative job, try to work in my sketchbook, try to keep painting, anything that I could. And looking back on it, I think it really feels just like grasping for straws to feel that sense of connection that I had growing up. But my substance use disorder and my active addiction really stripped me of any sense of passion in my life. In the recovery world, one of the promises is we regain an interest in the world around us and the people around us. And I had completely lost that. I didn't even remember that I had these passions for so long. And that was heartbreaking for me. Somebody who grew up with that, it was really instilled. It was so much a part of my identity. And I found myself almost a decade had gone by, and that was not a part of my life at all. So when I started trying to get sober and get clean, and I was going through treatment, this time around, when I got back out into the world, I had to take a look at what wasn't working well for me. And I think I just got this little internal nudge of like, I need to take a look at what I'm doing to feed my spirit and start taking my passions and my sense of purpose and putting that right at the top of my list of priorities. And not just saying, oh yeah, I want to get back into painting and having fun like that and enjoying life in that way, like that. And in some ways was the sentiment, but more than anything, like this is the thing that is going to help me really build my life back up and feel grounded in why I'm even doing this in the first place. So that's exactly what I did. I said, this is a priority. I got out of treatment. I started rebuilding my portfolio and reintegrating creativity back into my life as a person in early sobriety. And the way that that complemented my recovery and my mental health was just my life took a huge turn at that point. All of a sudden, like all the things that I had to do, all of the hard work, all of the discipline that life is going to require me to do, even if I wasn't a person in recovery, I now had my motivating force and decided to pursue what I like to call creative recovery coaching. And now I'm building a community that I really, really care about. It's taken off in a way that's if you build it, they will come kind of thing.
Troy, I want to go to you because you were impacted by this.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about how you found your way to New Obsession and why it's so meaningful to you.
Absolutely. So I had a career in software design. I found a lot of fulfillment in that for a long time because it was something creative and it really challenged me in a lot of ways to use my creativity in a different way that wasn't necessarily fine art. But along that way, I was using the entire time. I was drinking heavily. I think in that culture, alcohol and drugs are maybe not encouraged, but they're accepted as part of the creative process. And I really thought that that was how I was going to be the most creative, was through alcohol and drugs. And it worked for a while until it didn't. I found myself about 2 years ago without a job, close to losing my home. I didn't have a lot of friends. I was constantly using and I couldn't get out of this vicious cycle of addiction. So in October 22nd of 2024, I went into treatment. I didn't really have anything there except a ballpoint pen and some notebook paper, and that was for writing down things that we were learning during the groups. And what I found myself doing was drawing and sketching and doodling. And about a week into my treatment, Skye came with New Obsession, and we did an art recovery group. And that was the first time when I found that even without drugs and alcohol, I could still be creative and I could still enjoy making something. And so she came a few more times during my time in treatment, and every time this light bulb would just go off in my head, and I'm just like, holy crap, this is what I want to do with my life. I love this. And I can't believe that someone can make a career out of this. That's so awesome that you get to come to a treatment facility and teach art therapy and get paid at the same time. And so, towards the end of my time at the treatment facility, I asked my clinician if I could talk to Skye about her career path and how she got started. And our discussion evolved from her giving me some pointers about getting a recovery support peer specialist certification into, how maybe I could fit into New Obsession, what role I would have in her company, helping her expand services, helping with the studio, and additionally becoming part of the creative recovery facilitation team and eventually becoming a recovery support peer specialist myself. So here I am today, and it is so fulfilling for me to be able to stay close to recovery also being able to still be creative and help people at the same time. And that's been the magic of this whole 6 months for me, is that I'm doing something meaningful with my life now. And I am actually helping people. And I'm also helping myself because we're on the front lines in those treatment centers, seeing what that desperation looks like and trying to help people find some relief through creativity in their journeys.
When you do these workshops, so you've gone in, you're going in, you're talking to people in recovery, do you sometimes uncover that creativity in people? Do people sometimes just not even know that they are? And you come in and you do these workshops, or you come in and talk to them, and all of a sudden they're like, "That's a missing piece." Does that happen?
I see people who don't think that they're creative sometimes get the most out of these groups.
100%. Yeah, that's actually my favorite thing to happen. One of my biggest goals was to make it approachable, to make it something that doesn't feel unattainable or like I'm asking too much out of you. A big part of my like intro spiel when I meet with a group is if the most that you get out of this today is 5 minutes of mindfulness, like I'm a happy camper. But all of our groups, whether they are open studio sessions or if it's a specific project that we're guiding them through, they all kind of have an underlying message and experience that we want them to get, even outside of making something. We work on perfectionism. We work on like building a relationship with ourselves and others. Open Studio is always about autonomy and independence and how can we use those things with intention today. What I've found is when you can really make that parallel of like, hey, it's not about making something awesome here. It's about having an experience with the material and being open to challenging yourself to see like what can I get out of this time today. I see people really gain an opportunity to practice mindfulness through that and drop into the creative headspace and learn to access this way of thinking that just like opens a door.
But what I really see a lot of times is that people who are so bent out of shape by being in treatment, like there's this recovery fatigue that they go through in treatment. They're there for 30, 60, 90 days. Giving them a couple hours to really just not have to worry about talking or reading or writing, which is what you do a lot of in recovery settings. Giving them a chance to just get into a flow state is something that they really enjoy. And I think just giving them that little bit of relief from what they're already going through on top of the kind of recovery fatigue is something that has been really powerful for me because seeing somebody realize that they don't have to do something perfectly and it can still come out beautiful. And there's something that they want to take home with them and hopefully give them a reminder. This was who I wanted to be, or this is part of my journey. And I still have things that I made in Skye's groups and I treasure them. And I think a lot of people resonate with that also.
It sounds like you do feel that creativity can play an important part in stopping people from relapsing or being in touch with themselves or believing in that or letting that part of them be present.
Creativity as a tool for your recovery. You know, I have to remind myself all the time, like in the one-on-one context, so like I can't stop this person if they decide to relapse and go back out, right? I can help them put barriers in between them and their next drink or drug and help them build a life that they feel is fulfilling and, worth staying sober for and like worth doing all of the hard work for. But I think what I found is through the creative process, first and foremost, through connecting to passion in early recovery, it's just made a world of difference when it comes down to, hey, I know you're having a hard time today. I know you're having cravings, or this person really pissed you off and you ran out of money again and life is hard. But like, do you remember what you're doing this for? Right? Like, we identified your why like early on, and I'm going to recall that with you right now. And I think a lot of us in recovery have spent so much time running away from ourselves. It still makes me think my skin is itchy sometimes. And I think about how uncomfortable it can be. But, the creative space is a safe space. It is a private space. It's such a great tool to like build a relationship with yourself and have an open and honest dialogue with yourself.
This is something that you can do at any time. You can take this with you everywhere. And when you're struggling, if you can draw or write something out, maybe that's going to give you a little bit of pause before you go back and go to the liquor store or call your dealer. This is a tool that you now have. You can call people, you can draw, you can go to a meeting, but don't dismiss creativity as a tool for recovery because it's a tool that I use every day.
One thing that I think that this podcast is trying to do is to say there are things that we come up against in our lives. And the people who we've had on, you guys, we've had on a distance runner, an ultra marathon runner who's right now running a 300-mile run. And there are people who come to the edge where there's no more roadmap. And that's where the creativity comes into play. And they have to find within themselves another way forward that has not been done before or that they don't have, a playbook for. And I think about how the process of creativity can unlock those new ways forward and how that has worked in both of your lives. And then I also have a question about the specific challenges in rehabilitation for creatives. A lot of creative people in my life are musicians. And what you said, Troy, really resonated about it's normalized to drink and do drugs while you're working. And I know in the environment, especially in clubs and bars and at shows, it's always there. Everything's there and it's wrapped up in your livelihood and it's wrapped up in your environment, how you make money. So I wonder about the specific challenges for creatives in recovery, and then how community and a community of creatives is actually part of the healing process as well.
For myself, and I know for so many other people, I lived that story where before, during, and after my active addiction, like I did work in art and I did work in music for a little bit, and it was so normalized and so deeply enmeshed. My substance use and my community and my creativity and my passion and my sense of purpose, all of it was so intertwined with each other. And I had to untangle that web to even feel safe reapproaching my sense of passion as a person in sobriety. For a lot of people in recovery, it is truly a life and death situation. There's no way to really downplay it. We tried to, but I had a lot of fear getting back into creativity, and I had mentioned earlier, like I had to take a look at what wasn't working and why I continued to like relapse and I couldn't stay sober. And I didn't just like decide not to do that. I'm not interested in that anymore. I had a lot of fear getting back into the creative community. I came back to Austin to go to treatment and get sober, but a lot of my community was out in New York still, and I just didn't know where to start, and I didn't know how to start and to make sure that I was going to be safe and I was going to be okay and that it was going to be different this time. So a lot of the challenges and the obstacles and a lot of the intention, like I said, if you build it, they will come, is like I needed that community. I needed to find the people that were also wanting to do this and also wanting to not just like doodle and draw and sketch on the side, but like make this a part of my lifestyle and pursue that, even if I don't sell paintings out for millions of dollars, but like this is a part of my life. And where are the other people that are also doing this and also not doing all the other stuff too?
Yeah, and I kind of want to touch on the first where you talked about, how do we push past our current limitations and use the tools that we have at our disposal or that we've worked really hard to develop over our lifetimes. One thing that you will find as you get deeper into your recovery journey is that the only way that you really, really get relief is by helping other people. That's a huge part of our program is, altruism is a cheat code for happiness. And so still being able to be creative, but most importantly, being able to be of service to the community, that's where we get the most joy. That's where we find the inspiration to keep this going and to push and to build more services and to reach out to more recovery communities. And so it's this really cool, just cyclical positivity that we're trying to build, in our community.
I was thinking too about those like uncharted territories that we get into, and I think a lot of us are lucky to be able to have people that come into our lives and help us, like get clean or begin our recovery journeys, whatever that looks like for us, and give us these steps forwards and lay out a path to recovery. And I always did really well when people, and what you would call a compliant client, tell me what to do, when to do it, and where to do it. You got it. Just don't look too closely at what's going on over here because it's not that pretty, but just get off my back. I'll do what you tell me to do. And I always got to that threshold of like, okay, I've done everything that I was told to do, and now I have to make the decisions. Now I get to decide. The whole time I'm screaming and crying desperately for my autonomy back. I want to be able to make decisions for myself. I want to be trusted again. And I get those things back, and I historically just didn't know what to do with them. And I think the creative process helps you access, what do I want to do with this, right? Like we do open studio time, open studio groups, and we talk about autonomy. Like, hey, if I gave you 2 hours and a bucket of supplies, like what would you do with it? Would you sit here with your arms folded and be all frustrated that you're here and I'm not creative, I'm not good at art and da 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 da? Or can you ask yourself, what do I need out of this time? And how can I get what I need with the parameters that I've been given here? And really trying to get to that space of like, I'm not willing to accept my limitations today. And it's been cool. It has been really, really cool. I usually don't even tell them to make something with like intense meaning about their lives and their journey and what it means. And like 9 times out of 10, they do. And really seeing people reclaim that autonomy and make that decision, man, this is where I do have a decision. This is where I do have a choice and I do have power. What am I going to do with it? Let's figure that out early on while people are still telling you what to do next. So we don't get lost, kind of exploring the uncharted territories before we're even at that part of the map and setting people up for success.
A lot of recovery processes, it's like that they're saying like one day at a time, and that one day can be really long and difficult to get through. And I wonder about, using creativity to get into a space where time is, you own your time a little bit more, and you can kind of also just like the flow state where like time just passes. And so like, how does the creative process help you navigate time during the recovery?
I love that phrase, one day at a time. There's a lot of things that, we learn as we go through this process of recovery. And one of them is one, the past is the past, and don't future trip. Just be present. Just be in the moment as much as possible because it's really all that you have. And so for me, that one day at a time has kind of evolved into what am I going to do with my day that's going to make me feel good, that's not substance use related. And that usually means doing something active, making an affirmation for myself, or hopefully going to a meeting and meeting other people in the recovery community that I can talk to and share with about my day. And of course, you have to work and pay bills and things like that. But if I can just fit a couple of those things in my day every day, then it's been a good one.
Yeah, I think it just always hits home of the one day at a time. I think there's so many different points in my recovery where it's been so applicable. But I think kind of exactly what you said, it's what do I do with that day? There are things that I see some individuals slip into of like, I just gotta make it to the pillow. And like, I have these days where I really, the best I can do is just make it to the pillow. And that's all I have to give. And that's completely okay. But, what am I gonna do? It's just like 2 hours of open studio. What are you gonna do with it? Are you gonna sit there with your arms folded, or man, can I help you drop into a project? And what do you need out of this time? Do you need space? Do you need mindfulness? Do you need to throw something? I think the creative process really helps people find a language to ask themselves those questions of what do I need through like the feeling that I have, and just gives you another option of something to do with that time. Like if I had a lot of time in my early recovery this time around trying to figure out what to fill a day with, like before I had a job and before I felt super close with anybody and I was new to my community and I was new to the house I was living in and people were still mad at me in my life. Um, and everything can be so much about recovery all the time and it can make you feel less human. People really struggle with where to get connected to community, what to do for fun, how to fill your spare time, and the idle hands do the devil's work or whatever. But it's just another thing that can help us like feel productive and proactive. And at the end of it, I get that sense of accomplishment.
I listen to this and I just say, yeah, of course. I mean, creativity will do all that. So, why do you think this very important aspect of unlocking this? And I love the things you said, it's mindfulness, it's like meditation, it's that safe space, it's all of these great things. Why do you think this hasn't been explored before? But what do you think that's about?
I mean, I think in some ways it probably has been explored. I think on throughout the process of, especially since starting New Obsession and putting a name and now a location to it, I've been able to identify like there's a lot of people who are doing this, right? And maybe have like in their personal lives have identified this as part of their creative process and part of their recovery process. I mean, it's what I did, right? So much of this, like with the groups and the one-on-ones, all of it is really very much so rooted in like this is what I did and how it helped me. And I think in a lot of ways what we've done is kind of give it a name and package it up as best as we can and really offer it as a pathway. And like I see it as like giving people permission and making it more accessible, validating like, hey, this is a legitimate pathway to recovery if this is the path that you want to take. I mean, there's so many pathways to recovery. This is just one.
I think you're kind of getting at is why isn't this more widespread in the recovery community, perhaps? And there's a lot of reasons for that. This is considered by insurance companies to be kind of like a non-billable expense for treatment centers. I think that there's just a lot of people out there who don't think that they're creative, who feel like they have nothing to offer this world, especially while they're in treatment. They really don't feel like they're worth anything. And so getting someone to draw or paint in that state is it's hard to introduce that to people who feel so bad about what they've done. They don't feel like their life is worth anything. And so this path of creativity is the last thing on their brains. Art isn't recognized enough in our society as a pathway for relief. It takes someone who's really passionate about this to say, look, whatever you do is going to be just fine, but this is your time. Use it and explore. And so it really just takes the right approach.
Where do you see New Obsession going and your vision? What do you see the vision of this?
Yeah, the space we have today is amazing. It is a way bigger space than I thought that we would ever be able to have at this point in the life of New Obsession. I'm so grateful for it. I hope we get this massive warehouse one day, and we have all different kinds of studios, and we have a recording studio and a ceramic studio, and come in and check in and like do what you need to do and be self-directed. Here's the answer of all the limitations. A big job of mine as a recovery coach is to remove barriers to success for my peers that I work with. So bringing that into the creative space, I want to remove as many barriers as possible so everybody can see how cool it is to like be creative and make that a part of your life. It's the beginning stage where we're at right now is the beginning stage of an idea that I think I had when I was like 12 years old or something. So it's a cool full circle moment, but I've also always said I want to be really mindful and intentional that I can keep pushing towards where I want it to go, but I always want to save space and save room for what it's supposed to be and what the community wants it to be. And I've had to do a lot of shifting around, this is what I want it to be, and I want people to get this, but I get a different response, and it's like, oh, this is even better than I thought. But it really went from, hey, this helped me, and I bet you it would be helpful to some other people, to I think we're really starting a movement here and starting to make creativity and music and art and make that world something that is also seen as like a healing modality and like a path forward.
I almost think about it like a creative gym. People go and they work out, but there's not a lot of places where you can go and just be creative. And so I think that's what this is kind of evolving into, is that you come and you've got your music equipment, you've got your woodworking supplies, you've got your dry and wet mediums, you've got the claymation and the yarn for 3D projects. And I think that's what we kind of want it to be, is like somewhere where you can come and work out your creativity. That's part of what everyone needs, is to be creative. And if we can be a place where people can come and get some of that energy out and make something that they enjoy and think is cool, then we've done our jobs.
I like that phrase, the barrier to entry. It can be pretty high, when I think about a lot of people who like maybe want to learn how to silk screen, and trying it out to see if you're good is an expensive decision to make sometimes. Not everybody has the ability to invest, and seeing if they connect with a hobby like that. And you might even want to use it just one time for a project, and being able to provide that kind of experience. And I really do have a hope and an intention for New Obsession to always remain a space that is recovery and mental health informed, but is open to anybody. This is just a safe spot. This is just a spot where like, yeah, maybe there's a coaching session going on in like a group later on today, but also just come hang out. Like, you don't have to be in recovery, and you don't have to have burnt your life down to be a part of our community. Like all it is, we're just coming here, and like, it's not about drugs. It's not about alcohol. We're here for a different reason, and saying that out front. And anything else that happens, like, let's just have fun with it and build that healthy community in the art space.
Skye Hilton is the founder and owner of New Obsession in Austin, Texas, where she and other creative recovery facilitators like Troy Whittington offer one-on-one creative recovery coaching and peer support services. You can find this episode, along with our entire library, as well as information about Doreen Lorenzo, Michael Baker, and myself at cjfpodcast.com. And if you like this episode, please leave us a review and share the show with your friends. You can listen wherever you get podcasts. Also, connect with us on Instagram or LinkedIn and let us know how you're using creativity to overcome challenges, build community, and navigate the future. Creativity is the Job of the Future is produced in Austin, Texas. I'm Rebecca McEnroy. Thanks for listening.